Next up is, as I said, another conversation about potential, both in the public space and in the personal space. I'm sure all of you have heard about Siddharth Mukherjee, this beautiful writer who's written a magnum opus on cancer called The Emperor of Maladies. A couple of weeks ago, he wrote another wonderful piece that I would urge all of you to read, which was about his father's death. But in that piece, he spoke about a process that happens within all of us but is completely invisible, a process called homeostasis. A highly intelligent, highly invisible, highly complex process that keeps us alive as organisms, that really interconnects all the complex processes that makes up our body. But that has been completely ignored, not just by us, but by physiologists, by doctors, and by physicians for centuries, until there was one person who began to map that and arrived at that intricate system that really makes us function until things start to fall apart. And it's only when things start to fall apart that you realize what is this profound process called homeostasis that keeps us alive as organisms. And when that fails, you have something which can be called a failure cascade. Everything starts packing up. So next, we have a speaker who has faced what it is to be at the brink of a failure cascade, to be brought home that what happens when homeostasis fails you, not just in the physical body, but in her personal life, in her career, when that homeostasis that keeps us afloat, buoyant, successful, and that we are blind to, when that stops, comes the failure cascade. How do you begin to value homeostasis? How do you begin to overcome a failure cascade? That is really the profound lesson and story that today Manisha Koirala represents. We have known of her as somebody who was really at the peak of her career, a beautiful, luminous actress, very talented, worked with some of the best directors of our time. They're really iconic films, 1942, A Love Story, Bombay, Dil Se, Saudagar, Khamoshi, many of them that generations can watch. And then that homeostasis that kept her up began to fall apart. To understand that journey, to understand how she has triumphed from a divorce, from ovarian cancer, from a series of failures in her career, and yet to come back fighting, to hear that story, to celebrate it, and to kick off our year with that triumphant story of human endurance and hope. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Manisha Koirala. Thank you, Manisha. It's lovely to meet you. Manisha.
Good evening, everyone. That was a wonderful introduction. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Manisha. It's absolutely wonderful to have you here. So, you know, Manisha, like I spoke, it really is this idea of homeostasis. And I'm going to come to the, the pre-failure cascade phase of your life later, when you were really, at the peak of everything in your life, your personal life, your career, everything. But right now, I just wanted to start at the heart of it, the dark heart of it. Your discovery that you have ovarian cancer. And that really, today we've come to understand that maybe breast cancer is something that you can overcome. But ovarian cancer and other forms of cancer are still terrifying. Can you talk about, how you overcame this? Yes, it's probably luck and medicine and all of that. But is there a mental framework? Is there an attitude that can really help people more than anything else?
I don't know how to begin, but getting cancer is extremely scary. And because the information out there is of a lot of negativity and lot of, there's hardly any hope. So the whole process was extremely painful, fearful. I can't begin to explain what it is like to face your own death. it was just this uncanny, instinctive thing that I wanted to give myself. If this is going to how my life gonna end, if this is how death is gonna occur to me, then might as well try and give myself the best medical possible treatment available. So I went to New York, and I used to keep on asking my surgeon, my oncologist, what are the hopes, and I have a friend who's sitting here who's been through that journey with me and seen me in that process. I don't think I could imagine that I would be sitting here today after 5 years being cancer-free and I'll be okay. I couldn't have imagined this. It was really dark, and I don't want to cry, so I don't want to go too much into it. But I guess there was this whole push from my doctors, from my family, from my mom especially, who just didn't allow me to give up. And I just kept on trying, no matter how painful the journey was, no matter how scary it was, and just pushing yourself through the process. And I'm here today, so it has obviously worked. But there were a few things that I did during that, which I would like to share if it could help somebody. I didn't allow myself to dwell too much in the pain. I didn't allow, nor did my family allow anybody to come and say, oh, poor you, oh, bichara, and all that. So that was, and we were allowed to see comedy and nice, so everything, the environment was extremely positive. And we knew what we were going through, but at the face of it, we were all keeping a brave this thing. So a lot of positive environment from my doctors, from my family, from my friends, everybody. And that emotional support, that mental and emotional support when your body is really weak helps a lot. And I asked many oncologists, many doctors later on, and they all say the same thing. They say the emotional backup of your family matters a lot to the patient and how well the patient does. If they have a good family support, emotional support, they normally come back fine. They do well.
So, Manisha, again, I'm going to ask you for the shifts that would have happened because of this encounter with what could have been near death. But before that, I just wanted you to share with the audience this very unusual experience you've spoken about and written about elsewhere, where there was this doctor who kept visiting you on Sundays, way beyond the call of duty. Why was she doing that, and what did that leave with you?
That's interestingly, I saw a different aspect of life which I had not seen earlier. So I'm actually quite grateful to cancer because it brought some people certain experiences which wouldn't have happened otherwise. It showed me that people whom I had expected obviously weren't there, but strange people whom I had zero expectation, they came forward and really were there for me. And one such example is this Dr. Navneet Narula. Her name is Zina J, and she would be actually coming on Sundays and spend the entire day with me. And I was very curious, and I was like, why are you doing this, Zina J? I'm really, really curious. As a matter of fact, she just casually said, I'm doing this so that someday you do this for somebody else. And that was a huge shift for me to see this selfless act of love and kindness, and inner knowing that probably I needed that company that time. I was lonely most that time, and she was present. So it was like, it is huge. And
So, Manisha, again, like I was saying, that there's this whole invisible process of when you're fine, you don't look at it. When you were lying in bed in hospital with cancer, what did you, I'm going to come to the hope factor and what made you look forward and how it changed you, next. But before that, what did you begin to regret? What did you begin to regret about your life, what you had done with it, your attitudes? What were the things that you regretted?
a lot of things. In fact, the fact I was facing my death, the fact that I thought, oh my God, this is it. This is the end of my life. Then I started wondering, I mean, if this is the death, how did I live my life? Was I happy? Was I content? Was I proud? Did I live happily? How many good memories do I have? What do I leave behind? How shall people remember me? And, lots of questions started coming up. And I wasn't really, I had lived callously, and the last 10 years, I was not that happy. So I would dwell more into pain than to good things in life. So I had more bad memories than the good memories. So it's a lesson which I tell people now, that imagine, which I learned, that imagine if you are dying tomorrow, how would you want people to remember you? What are the things that you wish you had done? And we take life for granted. I also did, I didn't value my relationships. I was callous. You always think that you always have time. You have time to make up with somebody who's angry with you, whom you love dearly. You feel you always have a second chance. You take things, kar lenge, baad mein kar lenge, ho jayega, all that. And suddenly I realized that, I didn't have a chance. So what I did was, at that time, I said, Manisha, I'm going to really be mindful. If I get a second chance to life, if I really get fine, I'll be mindful. I'll really value things which comes to me, because life is a gift. People are a gift. Everything that came to me, I had a beautiful career, top actors, top directors, and great critics valuing me and all that. And I had become complacent. And so I would value all those things if I get a second chance. So it was about relationships, about my career, obviously about my health, so many things.
So, I keep telling you that I'm going to come to the next part next, but before that, Manisha, you spoke, really, your career was luminous, and your debut was luminous. The directors you worked with were tremendous. And then there was almost like you triggered your own self-destruction,
Absolutely.
Can you talk about that, whether it was the substance abuse or whether it was the choice of films? What is that? What is that thin line that, separates a person from success and then that tumble downwards? Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. I think the core of is all, at least for me, I can't speak for others, but at least for me, at the core was being ungrateful. Because I remember this, there was this shooting which was happening with Akshay Khanna, and Dimple Kapadia ji was there. And I remember telling her that I'm so bored with this, because the moment you get up, I have to rush to the studio, put the makeup on, and then come back home tired, and I hardly get to see life, and I hardly get to... So I was actually very I was in a routine and I was bored of that. And I feel my lack of interest in work and in life started from that. And what happens is one wrong move leads to another wrong move and to another. And I was in the whirlwind till I didn't realize that. And it was too late. That's the reason I tell my story now is, before it's too late, just wake up and, So, one wrong thing led to another wrong thing. I could say that.
And it was boredom. Was there also, Sanjay Dutt has been speaking a lot about, it's always been spoken of you that there was drug abuse and alcohol abuse, but I'm conjecturing here and I don't know. But Sanjay Dutt, for instance, now speaks very openly about it, again, because of, one part of experiencing life is that you can leave a footprint for others.
Absolutely. So what is your question?
Yes, so one was whether really this was just tabloid conversation, or was there really a lot of substance abuse? And was it boredom triggering it, or is there a nature of success that you can speak about which leaves one empty?
I think most, I don't know about substance abuse that you're talking about. I definitely had inclination towards being an alcoholic. And whenever I was slightly sad. Not slightly, I was actually quite sad. And the only thing that I would think of would relieve me of the pain was to drink wine. And again, so one glass became two glass, and then suddenly I realized it too late that it had gone a little too far, and but again, it's if it wasn't for that phase, if it wasn't for me really falling flat on my face, I wouldn't have really valued it. So I hug those embarrassing moments, those painful and sad moments, because of that, I don't touch alcohol anymore. I'm fine. And I decided that's not who I am. And it's behind me.
So, Manisha, before we come back to the present, I wanted to understand a little more about your mother. Clearly she's a fighter and she's helped you become a fighter. So what again is can you talk a little bit about her? You used to have a reputation for being very high-strung, for being temperamental, or for being moody and angry and all of that. Was that, was that also from the same gene pool of your mother? And did that also work out well for you? Both the good and the bad came from her?
I think I'm the case both from my father's side and from my mom, because Koirala women are meant to be very headstrong, and which many don't know, but in my family, we are brought up to be equal. We are brought up to speak our mind. We are brought up to, if something is wrong somewhere, to speak our mind. So actually this brings me to a memory a long time back, where somebody, today, there's a lot of talk about equality. There's a lot of talk about women pay and so many issues that is going on. Even yesterday in the Golden Globe Awards that was going on. During my time, there was clearly a lot of distinction. And I would see that, and I would really stand up for it. And then the label actually started, the reputation or the label actually started from there. But I'm so happy today when I see actresses standing up for what they believe in and actually having their own life, having their own point of view, and leading their own life in their own terms, and demanding respect and equality. I'm really happy for that. But during the time that I was in the industry, it was very tough. It was very different.
So, Manisha, you said that after this encounter and surviving it, it must have completely changed. You've mentioned how you will value different things, but in what other ways has it changed your attitude towards life? Now that you're coming back, and I'm sure all of you know that Manisha is going to play Nargis Dutt in Raju Hirani's new biography of Sanjay Dutt, and that.
Yeah, that film has been quite an interesting movie for me. And to play Nargis Tajri is a huge responsibility. I just hope people like me in that.
But, so I was asking that when you survived and you've become you don't like being called a cancer survivor, you want to be called a cancer crusader. But so who is the new Manisha? What is the new attitudes you have, both to work or to nature, to the way you spend your life? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I would love to. I have a friend, Ritu Bedi here, and she also is a cancer survivor, and I really can't stop admiring her guts, and we actually reflect each other, and I have seen so many cancer survivors. It's just that when you face that point of death and you return back, you really, you hug life. You hug life as if there's no tomorrow. So whatever life throws at you, whether it's a good relationship or work or anything, I think we tend to value it much more, number one. Number two, I feel the changes that has occurred in me was, earlier on, if a painful incident happened to me, I would cling on to it as if, now I will cry, I will shout, I will scream, whatever I feel like I'll do it, and I will just leave it behind and I will move on with the next. So, not carrying the baggage of hurt and pain and disappointments for too long, I do that now. And just appreciating life, appreciating grass, appreciating clouds, appreciating birds, appreciating everything that is mundane and we normally ignore it, everything.
So, Manisha, one of the things you've mentioned, again about being a milestone in your life was discovering the Oneness University in Chennai. What is the Oneness University and what does that talk about? How did it affect you? Why do you consider it such a big milestone?
I used to go to Oneness University earlier on, but like everything else, I did that as very half-hearted as well. Like I was happy I went there for a week and came back to life. But this time when I do anything, I do it with uttermost attention and focus, and I take the best out of that. And in 2013 or 14, I went and stayed at the Oneness University for 6 months, and that really shifted a lot of things. I started learning. It's a place, see, everybody has a different inclination. For me, that place taught me a lot. So I'm grateful for that.
So, Manisha, again, I'm going by what's available in the public domain, and the reason I'm always a bit tentative is because you never know what's true and what's not. But apparently you're thinking of adopting a child, and yet, you've come out of a painful relationship, a marriage that fell apart. Why are you thinking of having a child? And also that has your approach to love changed? You know, you've had many relationships, you've had it tumultuous, again in the public domain, affairs, relationships, many of them not borne fruit. Can you talk about your attitude to love and to marriage, and you know, how is that changed? What was it earlier?
Yes, I learned to love myself.
There's no way you didn't love yourself earlier.
You know, we women especially, I would say, I don't know about men, but we women tend to feel as if we need someone, as if there's a vacuum in us, and so a man will fill that vacuum. And so at least it was happening with me. So I was constantly, you know, in and out relationships, and too much of energy wasted on somebody else. So I think, you know, if one can love oneself, and if the right partner, and if he is truly right, will come along, and we both can be a traveler together, you know, but trying to mold oneself, trying to fit into the society's expectations or family's expectations or your own image of how a happy life would be, you know, it has to be true to you, and you should know your own worth, and that's it, I guess, you know. Love your life, love yourself, and value yourself. I learned all these lessons.
And about adopting the child, you know.
Yeah, a child. I've really, I still long to have a child, and actually, I don't know if I should say this, but. When I was married, I was trying to have a child, and because I was in my 40s, I was taking those hormone injections. So I'm contemplating, probably because of that I got cancer. So I'm looking back and thinking that, you know, I always longed to get pregnant, to have a child, and now that I can't do, I will probably end up adopting, but I hope I can do this sooner than later.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, Manisha, you know, before we open this up, I'm going to come back to your craft and to some of the directors you worked with, and you know, how your artistic imagination has changed. But before that, again, you were talking about this vacuum within women. But you were also very iconoclastic about marriage, you know, I mean, you didn't really hold it up in the pedestal that a lot of your peers, especially if you look back, you know, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, when you were at the peak of your career, it mattered a big deal, but you didn't lay that kind of emphasis on marriage. And then when you finally ended up marrying someone, you married someone you met on Facebook, you know.
No, that's the wrong information. It wasn't on Facebook, but yes, I didn't know him for too long.
But, so, you know, where did that kind of rejection of marriage come from? You know, was that part of your upbringing? Was it part of your attempt to be a woman on your own terms at a time when it wasn't so, it's much easier now? Or were there other things about marriage that scared you? Because you were talking about men, you know, about women needing men, but there were many men who proposed to you who you rejected as well.
Absolutely, and I'm not too proud about that because I think I let go of some good people. So, but I think there was, again, a complacent attitude, and I think there was, at the brick of it, you know, not really fully there and not ready for commitment, I guess. You know.
So, Manisha, you're coming back to the industry after so many years. You know, when you look back at that body of work that you were able to do at the start of your career, and you look at where Hindi cinema has moved now, do you feel that good things have happened while you were away, or do you think that the curve has gone backwards?
No, I think today's actresses are in much better place than before. and some really strong women, strong-minded actresses are there. And I love their work, the kind of work they're doing, the kind of people they are. I really love that because today, first of all, times have changed overall, everywhere. And especially in the cinema world, I think because of the exposure, because of various things, I think the quality of cinema also has improved a lot than just song and dance and good versus bad and, you know, that's just black and white. There's a lot of gray areas, there's a lot of new genre of cinema, there's a lot of independent filmmakers who are making different kinds of stories. And so, and audience are loving it, those films are becoming hit and they're bringing money. So I think it's a good time for cinema, especially Hindi cinema, Indian cinema. And it's a great time for actresses. I think they are doing really good work. I watch their work and I admire them.
Yeah, which ones would you pick?
Well, Vidya Balan, she does good work. Kangana, I would say, I think Deepika, and Alia Bhatt. So these girls are pretty, they're doing some really remarkable work.
So before I open this up, you know, what lies ahead, Manisha, after this Nargis film? Are you going to really throw yourself back into work, you know, pick a lot of films, or is your whole work-life balance shifted? You know, how are you playing the next few years of your life?
You know, there was a person, again, how Dr. Navneet Narula came. There's another person who, during my cancer recovery time or treatment time, was Dr. Narayan Naidu. And he told me that he said, Manisha ji, once you're fine, I know that you'll be fine. Once you're fine, discover who you truly are. And that time, I thought that was a strange question. I mean, I am Manisha Koirala, and I'm from Nepal. I am a Bollywood actress, and da-da-da-da-da-da. But I understood the question was much deeper, not on a superficial scale, but much deeper. And I live now with that question in mind. Who I am truly inside, what makes me happy, how do I wish to live my life? Because I know this is a limited time. There will be a death knocking on my door someday, maybe not soon, maybe later, I don't know, but someday it'll go. So I don't want to be in the same space that I was before. This time when I want to leave, I want to leave gracefully. Secondly, I want to leave with, I did my best with everything that matters to me, with fully paying attention and being mindful of how I live. So I will not let it go, you know, whether it's work, whether it's relationships, whether various things that brings me joy.
Thank you, Manisha.
Pleasure.
Let's open this up, and then if we have time, we'll talk some more. Yes.
So though this is not a negative question, but I'm going to take you back to the time you were facing cancer. And I understand that you were very deeply involved with, you know, visits to the doctor, to the hospital. So there's this word called doctor. How would you describe that, you know, the contribution of the doctors in your life?
Well, because of their expertise, I'm here. And it matters a lot because, you know, for a patient, doctors are the closest thing that God could be, you know, on a living this thing. So for me, my doctors mean a lot, a lot.
Yes, this question.
Hi, Manisha. You've been one of the most beautiful things that has happened to the Bollywood.
Thank you, sir.
My question to you is that you spoke about the support of the family and the emotional support that's valuable in fighting with the cancer. But there is always a journey in this particular disease, which is from hopelessness to the hope, you know. And we always look forward to something or someone to live for. Would you be able to tell us what was that helped you to fight that?
I was desperate to see some hope. And my doctors had actually told me, don't look in the net, but where else do I look in? Whom do I talk to? So I was actually constantly on my iPad and looking for positive stories. And during that time, Lisa Ray, Yuvraj Singh, and there were a few other stories, and they would actually give me hope. And that's the time I promised myself that if I became all right, I am going to give hope to others, and I will share my story to others. Because I know the value of getting hope. You know, I received hope and strength from them.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Yeah.
Hi.
There's one here and then. Okay. Yes, you.
Hi Manisha, I'm Anu. I've just had somebody who's succumbed to cancer, sadly. So my question to you is, your treatment, was it, the success of your treatment, would you attribute it to medical treatment, or was it a lot of healing that you did? Wholesome healing, you know, internal healing, what you're talking about, appreciating, gratitude, affirmation. So do you feel that helped? And if it did, to what degree?
You know, as a human being, we have certain limitation. And I firmly believe in doing my best, doing everything under the sun possible to heal myself, but then at the end, leaving up to your destiny, up to God, or whatever you say, because there's a limited amount of thing that one can do. So I give credit to the fact that I got very good surgeon, and I had a very good oncologist. I had wonderful family support, and I was hell-bent on healing. I have a strong willpower. That helped me. That helped me. I would be, you know, reading about who have survived and why have they survived. I would be really pushing it. Something funny I did, you know, but I would say that, you know, there's a jap mala. I would literally be saying, I'm cured, I'm cured, I'm cured, I'm cured, I'm cured, I'm cured. So, I would only feed the positive affirmation, the positive thing, and no matter how painful it was for me to walk up and take few steps, but I would make sure I would do that. And I would make sure that I didn't feel like eating, but I would eat, because those days nutrition is really important. So I started reading lots how people have survived this thing. And I try to inculcate those things in my life. But again, after all that effort, I say that there is something called destiny, there is something called beyond this thing. I had no clue that if you are a BRCA positive person, or if you have a gene mutation, which I have, if you have a gene mutation, that the chemotherapy works wonders. I didn't know that, but I found during my journey, probably because of that also. So I have... Yes, I really believe that mind has an effect on the body, and positivity really helps. As much as I did reading on that, I discovered more people like that.
Hi, Manisha.
Yes.
As Shoma said, you are on peak of the this industry, and you're doing a lot of good films. And suddenly you disappeared, and we came to know from the media what happened to you. You had great friends when you were in Bollywood. Whatever little we read is, once this happened to you, a lot of people deserted you. And you had, whatever I read, is you had maybe Sanjay Dutt, Arvind Swamy, who co-acted with you in Mumbai. Is Bollywood such a bad world? Is my question to you.
It's not Bollywood only, I would say. I think it's human to fear sickness. we all are scared to see somebody in pain because it pains us. And to see somebody dying also scares because it reminds us of our own death. So various reasons. It's not Bollywood, it's human nature. It's human nature to avoid pain as much as possible.
Hi, Manisha. This is Prashant. I'm a huge fan of yours. So you look beautiful.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask that, of course, you have been fortunate enough to go to US and get those treatment done. There are hundreds of other people, those who are not fortunate enough, okay, apart from the positive thoughts and other things. And of course, as a Bollywood artist, you have a lot of power to influence. What you'd like to do going forward to help those people, those who are not as fortunate as you?
That's $1 million question, sir. And I don't know how much can I help, and I don't know if my efforts would ever be enough. But one thing I promised myself, that I will try to make my second inning in life more useful for the people. And wherever, whether it's cancer or anywhere else, whether small or big, in whatever capacity, I will be of service. And I'll live a mindful life. Now, as far as having resources and getting a medical treatment, and here not too many have that, I would say that I know many patients, personally in my family too, who have had the treatment in India or in Nepal and they're fine. So, it's, but I'm not saying that it's enough. Maybe we need to do a lot more, but it's not so bad. I think the medical profession over here is quite good. Yes, because of the majority, because of the numbers, we need to have more. And yes, again, the reason why in US it's better, because I think like my ovarian cancer surgeon would not touch any other organ in the body. He would only operate on ovaries. Likewise for any other organs in the body. So they become expert because they're practicing only in that particular space. If there's a problem in the little finger or a ear, they will only focus on that. So they become an expert on I guess this is what we need to inculcate here and do become better. I think everywhere generating more awareness about healthy lifestyle, because cancer or any non-communicable disease is definitely related to lifestyle. And so this is within my own capacity. I go and talk about the importance of healthy lifestyle and what all we can do to live in this modern world with so much of stress and XYZ expectations and living in style and, unhealthy habits and all that. So as much as possible, I go around and talk to people. I use any platform to share my story so that people will learn from the mistakes I did, and I hope they don't repeat that. And also the importance of valuing life and health. That's, I feel if we all can look after our own health, if we all become responsible about our own health, 50% of the problem gets solved.
Hi, Manisha.
Yes.
Sure.
And we would like to know how you find the connect between yourself and this iconic character that you're about to perform.
Yes. Nargis Taji is, she's such a legendary figure, and she's you know, I've seen her movies, and we all have a certain image. And when Rajkumar Hiraniji, he asked me to play this role, I was, you know, I knew the common link between us was cancer. And it's, so I just, in one way, I felt thrilled and honored to play her. On the other hand, I was thinking, I don't want to be defined by cancer. But I'm exceptionally happy with the film, and I am so grateful that I'm part of this wonderful film. I'm glad that I took that decision.
Yes.
Thanks.
And also a wonderful temperament. Sanjay shared the story about just how beautifully volatile and temperamental his mother was, you know. Yeah. So I hope cancer hasn't beaten the temperament out of you. You know? Yeah, there's a question there.
Hi, Manisha. So, while most of us know about your film achievements, not many would be perhaps aware of the work you've done with UNFPA, particularly, I think, during the Nepal earthquakes. If you could please tell us about that.
Yeah, this all actually stems from the promise I made during my hospital days that I will be useful. And so when UNFPA Nepal contacted me and they asked me to be a Goodwill Ambassador, we did this campaign called Dignity First campaign because we wanted to give voice to the voiceless. Women normally are the last in people's mind when there's a huge, calamity happens. Constructions and other things, other big issues takes a forefront. So UNFPA, we kind of started talking about women's health issues, their security, their everything. So this is the campaign which we did called Dignity First. And I've been working with UNFPA Nepal very closely after that in various areas.
You know, sorry, I'm just stealing one more question and then I'm going to come to you. You said you don't want to be defined by cancer, Manisha. And in the past you said, you know, your work bored you, and though everyone else was so admiring of your life, you weren't valuing your life. So now, looking ahead, what would you like to define you?
Well, honestly, I'm still learning. I don't make big plans. I take smaller steps, smaller goals. And I'm just living in present, and I just want to be grateful for everything that I get. I'm grateful for you all. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for every opportunity that knocks at my door, and that's it. I think.
But does cinema still attract you, or is it something incidental to you now?
No, cinema is an important part of my life. It's not my everything, but it's an important part of my life. I love being in front of camera. I love acting. I love cinema. So it's an important part of my life.
Yes.
Session here. My question is that a lot of people talk about being service-oriented, contributing to causes, but it's when you come across an event like you did, you know, you become ill, that you want to work for foundations and stuff. Now, people talk about service orientation, its spiritual impact, its relevance, but very few people do it. But it's when you come across, you know, almost losing life, then quite a few people turn around and truly want to serve. What's that shift? Why do people talk about service but not do it? But people who come so close to losing life actually do it. So what's the shift?
Well, I can't comment about the other lot. I can definitely say that there was a huge realization that, everything is interconnected. We as a whole are impacting each other in some level or the other. And so if there is a kindness, if somebody has given me a kindness, a selfless love, and only asking me to pay it forward, so I just learned that, and I said, that gave me peace if I can pay it forward. And to understand in a deeper, not only on intellectual level, but on a deeper soul level, to understand that we are part of the whole, that we impact each other, that we are connected, and one wrong move of mine will impact something. One right move will impact in another way. So one starts living more authentic life, more authentic towards myself, more authentic towards my surroundings, and also responsibly. So that's how I would say the shift happened to me.
Sorry, if the person had not been kind to you, and said that perhaps you'll help someone else just like she did to you, would the impact still be there on you? Would you still discover the interconnectedness which makes you contribute and put your drop in the ocean?
I really can't answer that honestly, what would be the consequences had that not happened to me. But it definitely impacted me. And there was a time that I needed help. There was a time that I needed counseling. There was a time that I needed hope. And somebody gave that to me. And I received that, and all I want to do now is give it back in whatever capacity.
Well, I think we'll end it there. Thank you very, very much, Manisha. Listening to you, it's really quite profound just how much of blindness one lives with. I used that phrase earlier about homeostasis, but it really is not just within our organisms, but as physical beings, but spiritually, emotionally, even the ethic of work. It is the small ways that people do the work that they're meant to do that keeps the world moving. You've spoken about doctors, nurses, just the garbage man who comes and takes away your garbage.
Absolutely.
All around us is that process that we are blind to until we almost lose it. And today you've really brought home that very, very powerfully to us, Manisha. You represent so much the potential that we wanted to start this year with. And thank you very much for sharing a very, very honest account of that whole trajectory of your life from complacency to mindfulness. It's a very powerful message, and thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.